Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Mango, Donovan, and Bobo's Void. We're once again in my favorite place ever in the world. Today's episode, because we were supposed to have our Q&A last week, and we postponed it to this week. So today we're getting back to our Q&A episode. I had asked a bunch of you on Instagram and on Patreon to send me questions, and so many of them were good. So we're going to divide the episode up into Instagram questions and then Patreon questions because they're so different.
Yeah.
And today we're discussing the Instagram questions.
Okay, cool.
So I have...
So today we're in the trenches.
We're in the trenches.
You made a little classist framing of this.
Yeah.
There's the Instagram and then there's the Patreon.
Yes,
you know?
yeah, we have to divide them. We have all of the questions here in our little question bag, which is the bag we keep our microphones. And either one of us can pull it out at random and read. And then we'll just pick, one of the questions.
Okay, let me start off.
Okay.
These are paragraphs. But
People-
Bubba, you said they were questions.
We have to give the people their paragraphs.
This is how much they're going through?
This is how much the people are going
Okay,
through.
well, let me read this dissertation.
Stop.
I've been financially supporting a high school friend who's struggling with his mental health issues, homelessness, and addiction. I don't know how to establish boundaries without feeling extremely guilty. Earlier this year, he had an episode, got mad at me for denying him money, and... Sorry, I also can't read, but this is insane. This is already insane.
So this is a black person?
Right, I'm already up
We
there.
didn't need to establish that. Yeah.
Got mad at me for denying him money, and it literally sent me into an episode that almost ended my life. Wow. I care about the dude and feel bad that not enough is done for people struggling. All my counsel has advised me to cut ties with the person, but I want to help. I really feel this person.
This is, I feel, a very common dilemma.
Common dilemma when you're an empathetic, genuine human being.
Living
you know?
under late stage capitalism.
Yeah, what are your
and
thoughts?
Everyone around you is going mad. You know, I'm someone who's been suicidal. I've been to the depths of mental illness. I get it. So I could never in good faith tell someone to abandon someone because I know what it's like to be there. We just live in a society where everyone is uncomfortable with discomfort.
Yeah.
And everyone is especially uncomfortable with other people's discomfort, let alone their own. And so I noticed that is particularly with people who don't hold space for themselves, who don't allow space for themselves when they're in despair or when they're enraged. I noticed they also struggle to do that for other people. So I also get why people are like, nah, protect your peace, fam. Because it's like, well, you just are unable to do this for yourself.
Right.
So when someone asks you to do it for them, you think it's absurd. But that doesn't mean that if you can, you shouldn't.
Right.
Because if you can, like, what is really lost?
Yeah.
Love is laborious sometimes.
Yeah.
That's like that's what love is. It's like sometimes it's blissful and other times it's hard.
Right.
But like that's what it is. Sometimes someone wants to kill themselves and you
promise to be there for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I feel you.
empathy is not as deep as we've made it out to be.
Yeah.
It's not as laborious.
Yeah.
It's just like when someone is in need, you don't have to give them a solution. You don't have to fix their lives. Just hold space for their emotions. Like be their sounding board.
Can I offer a good faith disagreement though?
Okay.
We need to find a way to discern between empathy and objectivity. Empathy can always, nudge us into always holding space for other people. When I see someone in pain, I want to help them.
Yeah.
We should also be objective enough to take a step back, look at our person's influence on that life and ask ourselves, are they getting better? So the idea is if you've been helping someone, over and
enabling
over
them.
and over in them.
Yeah.
And then after a year of you helping them, you look back at their fundamental problems and ask yourself, have they gotten better or have they gotten worse?
Yeah.
You need to detach from your own empathy and just understand that I am not having a net positive effect on this person. And that is a very difficult process for hyper empathetic people to
Right,
do. But
yeah.
it is objectively the right thing to do.
Right,
Especially
right.
when it comes to mental health things, which to even accept what mental health is, you need to understand that this transcends friendship. This is a real medical issue.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
a medical doctor? Are you
Yeah.
a medical professional? And I know that like this advice can easily be like conflated with like, it's not your job. Da, 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 da.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
this isn't
No,
saying
I
that.
completely
Sometimes
get
it is your job.
Yeah.
Sometimes it isn't. Don't be so empathetic that you don't ask yourself, am I objectively benefiting this person's life or am
Yeah.
I enabling them? Because
Yeah.
I've been in that position before. And I think something that we don't talk about enough is having a savior complex. Because a savior complex and being an empathetic good person are two very different things.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to objectively ask yourself, like, do I enjoy being this person's lifeboat? Is there something about that I need for me? The idea of other people relying on me, the ego boost I get from helping someone at their lowest moment.
Yeah.
Not to say that this person is doing that, but these are all questions that we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah,
Because we need to
yeah.
be as objective as possible. And sometimes the least emotional approach is the best approach. You know, you're stepping back from them as a friend and passing them on to a professional might be the thing that saves their life.
Yeah, but that I wouldn't consider that to be any different. Like I think a lot of people can't even do that. Like they want to remove themselves so much from discomfort that even sitting down with you and having the conversation of like, I think you should go see a professional is way too much. Like that's way too much emotional labor.
Right.
So no, I definitely think you're completely right.
Yeah.
There's a difference between helping someone and enabling them.
Yeah.
And it's a hard line to draw, but I think one is kind and the other is nice. So when you're helping someone, you're being kind. When you're enabling someone, you're being nice.
Right.
Which is to say that you're not really being honest here.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah. You know, you're like your friend comes over and she's like, he left me again.
Yeah.
The 5th DJ that I'm dating has left me again. What could it be?
Yeah.
And you know, the kind thing to do would
Yeah.
be to be like, well, maybe it's not the DJs, maybe it's the people you keep picking. Maybe look at your and the nice thing to say would to be like, yeah, fuck those niggas, man.
Yeah, right.
Fuck those,
Right.
they suck.
Right.
So like, yeah, one is enabling because it's being nice, but one is helping because it's being kind.
Yeah.
And I think the differentiating factor there is honesty.
Yeah.
If you can be fully honest with someone about what you think
Yeah.
they need, whether it's they're suicidal and they need their family, or it's they're suicidal and they need to leave their job, they need to leave their wife. The kind thing to do is to commit to being honest with them
I feel that.
about what really needs to be done.
Yeah. You know, I think that some of the most productive things I've ever done as a friend, as far as intervening, was
Yeah.
actually just like taking someone to professional help. Because like
Yeah.
you can't listening and learning your way through someone with an opioid addiction.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
You have
yeah.
to take them to Sunnyside Clinic in Long Island
Yeah.
so they can dry up for a few weeks.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's certain things that literally cannot be transcended through empathy.
Yeah.
People do need professional help. But I do find, and my friend who's an addict said this, and it's the funniest thing I've ever heard, which is that people make interventions about themselves. So it's like you show up to someone's intervention and they're like, and then there was that time where you said you were going to pick me up, but you were high
Yeah.
and you didn't pick me up. And it's just everyone. And then it's everyone complain. And like, that's what made
Airing
you do
their
drugs in the first
grievances.
place. It's
Yeah.
like, this is why I do drugs.
Yeah.
All you niggas do is talk about yourselves. So like
Yeah.
you don't want to be that person, right? You don't want to be someone that you really love them and you want the best for them, but something that you're doing isn't working.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe it's because you're at your wit's end and they need someone with a bit more patience.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I look back at all the people I like tried to help myself versus just like got medical attention,
Yeah.
it was always better if I And
he just took them to the hospital.
Yeah, it's actually not like, people view it as like, oh, I offloaded this person.
Yeah.
But really, it's just like you knew your actual like competency limit.
Yeah.
And you like,
Yeah.
I'm not qualified to deal
Yeah.
with this person anymore.
So just tell the person, listen, fam, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm not bettering you
Yeah.
by just giving you money every week.
Yeah.
So let's go to the hospital. Let's actually don't just tell them let's go to McDonald's, and then you show up to the hospital.
Yeah.
You have to trick them there.
But like, don't do like a selfish ass intervention where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, and then you dropped the baby because you were high, and it's like, but why did you have a baby? You know, why did you? If you knew I was doing drugs, but no, like, don't do a people are selfish in their intervention.
Okay, no interventions. Yeah,
No,
just
just-
be like, let's go to McDonald's. Let's go, and
Yeah.
then go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're being facetious, but you get,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to be a good friend.
Yeah,
That's all.
it's not always like
Yeah.
emotional labor. Sometimes it's like,
Calling up Sunnyside Clinic,
yeah,
you know?
or their mom.
Yeah, or
Being
their
like,
mom.
Come get your child.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me grab the next question.
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh.
Geez, this one's even longer.
This one's even longer. This one is spicy.
Really? I'm
it's
excited.
very
I'm
spicy.
excited.
Okay. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So, I saw an email OnlyFans notification on my boyfriend's phone,
Oh,
who is 25 years old, and I curiously opened it to find a ton of trans woman porn subscriptions in his inbox.
What's the problem?
A lot of the content is trans women dominating straight men. And for context, we're monogamous, and we started our relationship casually before we became exclusive. So this is his first ever romantic relationship. When we first met, he was super masculine and emotionally unavailable. He's since softened a lot, evolved, and grown tons. He's amazingly receptive to my needs. And I wonder if his need to initially be so masculine says something about his sexual shadows. Should I address this? I'm 25 years old and have engaged in queer relationships. So obviously, I wouldn't want to shame him about it if it's more than just a turn on. We've tried anal play and he loves it. What do you think? Is this something he needs to explore, or is it just the rabbit hole of the internet and a need for more different sexual experiences? I don't think sexuality is real or relevant, but for some reason, this feels so potent and secretive. There's so much to unpack.
There's a lot.
There's so, bitch.
Something that I think that we don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
I mean, sex is the most consequential things we can do with our bodies.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it
Yeah.
enough, you know?
Yeah.
But with porn specifically, there's sort of brewing to like the top of the collective conscious this conversation about porn. Are you fapping too much? Porn is ruining this. Men can't come anymore. And it's a little bit overplayed, but certainly worth talking about because it has shaped the psyche of a generation of men.
Yeah.
Maybe
absolutely.
two, maybe three.
Absolutely.
Permanently.
Yeah.
When young boys have their first curious thought about like what is underneath girls' clothes, they go on the internet, type in boobs, and then 5 minutes later they're watching like bukkake foot fetish.
Yeah.
And it's traumatizing, and it's shaped a lot of our opinions on the opposite sex. And I've seen like a lot of stories about women being like horrified by like the porn that their boyfriends watch or like, you know what. And I'm not saying that like, okay, well, let's cut men a break, but I am saying like, let's actually have a conversation about the way porn has affected us and what it says about us.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. She brought up sexual shadows, which I do think is
What
really
is that?
interesting.
I actually have no idea what that is.
It's the idea that you will sort of want in your sexual life the shadow of your presenting life or your, you know, the life that you present to the public. So it's the way that these guys who are these big, powerful businessmen just
Yeah.
love getting dommed by like a woman in stilettos on the
Yeah.
Lower West Side. So it's like
Okay.
that's what, you know, that's your shadow. So that's
okay.
him, right?
Yeah.
He's this powerful business person. His
Yeah.
shadow is this like whimpering cup.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
cup getting like spanked.
I see.
So
yeah.
that's so, you know, having interests or seeing what your partner's sexual shadow says about them could be something that kind of drives you up a wall because you think like, oh my gosh, is this who this person secretly is?
Yeah.
But is sex this sort of deeply telling insight
I was literally
into
about to
someone's
ask
psyche?
you.
Or did you just watch bukkake foot fetish porn at 5 years old because that's when you got your iPad? And now that's what you're into. Does it inherently have to be this insight into who you are morally, like as a human being? Or is it just like, no, now I need to see a Vietnamese woman getting her feet came on because that's what I watched at 7?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Should we view sex through this like inherently analytical lens? Or is it just fucking, I don't know, that's what makes my dick hard. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we should.
Explain.
I think we should. You know how I feel about brainstem. Shout out brainstem.
Yeah.
Gang, gang. And that's where sexual desires are.
Yeah.
I think sex is one of our first desires. So it's important, clearly. It is extremely consequential because the survival of our species depends on it. So from that lens, it is. And it's also extremely consequential because it was one of the foundational desires of humanity. On a fundamental, unchangeable level, we are shitting, fucking, peeing, sleeping. That's who we are.
I agree.
So why should we be ashamed of any of that?
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So my point is that because it is such a lizard brain level of cognition,
Yeah.
can we just find, you know, like trans DP porn on our partner's phone and not judge them?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Because
Yeah.
shame, you're right, shame is a powerful thing. Shame causes all violence.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
violence is an attempt to replace shame with control.
Facts.
That is every
Yeah.
single time. So all of that sexual shame that men feels literally gets put out onto women.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
women, that's why so much domestic abuse, so much unnecessary violence is because there's all this shame that gets catalyzed into violence inside of men.
Yeah.
So my point is that, like, one, let's stop shaming anyone. And for anything that isn't pedophilia. That's where I'm at with it. I'm gonna be honest. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, if you're not a pedophile,
do whatever you want.
Be sexually anything.
But, you know, maybe let's not, like, analyze this to death. Especially
Why?
knowing that, because the context we were introduced to sex was so chaotic and insane in the internet generation. So it's
well,
like,
that's why we need to unpack it because it's so
yeah,
insane.
but I don't know. You just like watching Bugs Bunny get DP'd by one of the Avatar aliens now,
Yeah.
and it's like, is that some profound statement about your inner Freudian self, or is that just a fucked up glitch when you put a monkey in front of a computer at 5 years old?
Interesting.
Does it need to be something that gets like?
Okay, is there a valid claim that this feels secretive? In your
What?
opinion, because she
Oh,
said at the end of the
okay,
letter
interesting.
that this feels potent, and that's what we were just discussing. Is this potent? And then she says, and secretive.
Okay.
And do you think this is a secret? Is this something that should be inherently private? Like who we want to fuck? Or should we just be out? Should we just be like, yeah, I want to fuck alligators. That's what I'm into.
Yeah.
And everyone just say that.
Yeah.
This is the way we're like, yeah, I'm black. No, should we just be like, yeah, I like octopi?
My point is that if you're gonna give people the internet at 5 years old, then we have to just accept that now.
Yeah.
You
I
just have to
see.
accept, like, I just want to fuck the aliens from Avatar.
Yeah.
That's my only thing now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we're going to deal with each other. Because another thing that no one talks about is sexual identity has now become a political identity more than an actual sexual identity.
Yeah.
Nobody's even fucking. No one can even get their dick hard. Everyone's on antidepressants.
Yeah.
We're the only people to have less sex than our parents. So it's like sex is happening as little as it has ever happened.
Yeah,
But we're so obsessed with it. So I think maybe when you sort of detach some of those things, you don't really view someone's sexual appetite or what they're into as this existential statement of their personhood. You know, it's just sort of what makes them hard or wet or whatever.
Yeah.
And then deal with them as a person. So if you feel like your boyfriend does have this shadow self, or if he's struggling with maybe gender dysphoria and he just feels uncomfortable, or if that's a conversation worth having. But I
Yeah.
think you would see that in other parts of his life. You know? I think that the idea that sex says everything about you is what's insane.
It's not that it says everything about you, but it says something, definitely, because it's
Yeah.
so primal and
I
so
get that.
foundational.
I get
that it's
that.
worth exploring. Like if we are to agree that the unexamined life is not one worth living, then my take is that sex is also worth examining.
I
When
feel
we
you.
examine our lives, let's also examine sex.
I get it, I
let's
get it.
let's also examine why we want to just fuck octopi.
I get that. I get that.
And where that comes from, because then we understand ourselves more, and then
Yeah.
we can just be like less insane and less shameful.
I get that.
Yeah.
But if you're like into like watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle porn or like whatever. Man, people are gonna think people are gonna think I'm like snitching on myself. My point is that like, what does that say about you? What is the profound statement that like watching Master Splinter from Ninja Turtles, like fuck
No, it could be a
Jessica
new,
Rabbit? What does that say about
it's
you?
It's a new type of brain. It means like you live in such an absurdist world.
Yeah.
Like your life is so absurd, and your sense of self under late stage capitalism
Right.
is so absurd.
Okay.
Because everything is ironic.
Okay.
And you've never engaged
Yeah.
with anything sincerely.
Okay.
So you actually have no idea what sincerity even feels like.
Okay.
So when you desire the depths of your desires, which is sexual desires,
Okay.
you will desire the thing that is most absurd.
Yeah.
That's what you, because that's the premise of
Okay,
your.
fair.
That's, yeah.
Okay, fair. Now you've convinced me.
Exactly.
Okay, you've convinced
It's like
me.
you were born into a late stage capitalist hellscape.
Right.
And then 9/11 happened, and then COVID happened, and then niggas were crazy.
Okay.
Then Elon Musk owned Twitter.
Right.
And then Donald Trump was the president.
Right.
And then Putin went to war.
I get it.
And then Mugabe kicked the whites out. And then niggas were not trying to... Like, when you're born in that much absurdity, you just seek it because it's just what you know.
Okay.
And that's why you're into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle
Okay.
sex.
Well, now that people think I watch cartoon porn, let's move on to the next question.
Thank you. Well, do you like cartoon? Do you watch Arthur porn?
No, I'm actually not. I just find it to be the funniest like option to talk about.
Teletubby porn. That's my shit.
I'm person, but like I don't judge. My point is like I don't judge you.
Yeah,
I don't, I
you
think
should
that-
watch Teletubby porn.
I think that you were raised in a collapsed system.
Yeah.
So whatever makes your dick hard now is like
Let's go.
Go do you.
Yeah. Unless it's pedophilia.
Right, no, just be of age. That's really, at this point, it's the only thing I can stand to be judgmental about.
Go fuck anything.
Yeah. My partner of 10 years broke up with me after I had a bad year of struggling with my mental health.
People are not doing well.
Is it us? Are we so mentally unwell? Bubba, I'm starting to think it might be us.
That we are so mentally unwell. We're so unhinged.
Okay, my partner of 10 years broke up with me after I had a bad year of struggling with my mental health. I felt betrayed and didn't see it coming. We got married this year and I supported him. This was my first bad year where I wasn't able to fulfill his needs because my mental illness consumed me. I'm currently surrounded by friends and fam, feel loved. I'm realizing it may have been for the best. Since we split, my insomnia I've had all these years has been cured and my mental health is a lot better. This begs the question, are men even able to support when you're struggling in the same way women support them when they're struggling?
That's a very interesting.
You tell me.
I think, look, okay, gender aside, people can only give you what they are capable of giving to themselves. And I
Facts.
truly believe that. Like, I
Facts.
believe that people are only as kind to you as they are kind to themselves. People are only as generous to you as they are to themselves. So when someone is unable to do something for you, it's because they actually can't even do it for themselves. And so to take that personally is absurd. You're taking it personally that someone can't do something for themselves.
For themselves.
Like it has nothing to do with you. So that's the first part of that. The second is gender does have a lot to do with it. Gender does. I feel very held by you. So clearly it's not all men. I feel very lucky in that, like, even through this, we've been going through a rough time, just like trying to recover from something traumatic that happened. And I feel we've been able to hold space for, you know, there are days where we've both been enraged, you know, like the ups and downs of trauma. It's like some days are fine and then the other days are just really bad, and some nights are good, but like I feel like we hold space for each other. But I also see you give that to yourself, and that's how I knew that you could give it to me.
Right.
I also think, like, as women, it does have a lot to do with gender, because men are socialized in opposition to women. Men are raised in opposition to women. So men will inherently, being like the class of people that were taught that love is a feminine thing, that emotions are feminine traits, that feeling is a feminine activity, like a class of people that are grown up with that ideology, they just like, most of them are going to be worse at this thing.
Yeah.
But like there are still some, but it's rare, and it like requires a cultural shift, I feel. I don't think you can change any one man. I think like we can only change culture and like abolish gender so that like men aren't emotionally like childish. What do you think?
You know, it's hard for me to not think about men's emotions from like an evo psych perspective, because I think a lot of the survival of our species at our early nascent era was the repression of men's emotions. We were the ones outwardly, you know, going and hunting or fighting other tribes and shit. And in order to engage in like war, which is also something we created, you have to suppress something.
Right.
Patriarchy requires a lot of suppression, and that's the system that we're running. So it's a system based on the suppression of men's emotions. Okay, so then what happens when you spend your whole life suppressing your own emotions? Now you just can't deal with emotion generally. We're very poor and just inept at dealing with emotion, because we've never even learned how to deal with our own. It's like you said, someone can only do for you what they can do for themselves. And the patriarchy, almost by definition, is a systemic suppression of men's emotions. It's also a systemic oppression of men's morality, because much like colonization, we have to view women as less human than us in order for this whole system to work. So that leads to this sort of like actual like psychological decay where you can't actually feel emotion properly. And it's perpetuated by so many. It's like, you know, boys don't cry, you know, like all this shit. You're raised in that, and then you're sort of just taught to know how to deal with emotion. And even women need to be taught how to deal with emotion. And you guys are inherently better at it. And there isn't this system. I don't know. Well, you tell me.
We're not better at it.
Do you feel like there is a systemic repression of women's emotions, or is it different emotions that get repressed?
It's definitely different emotions, and I like what you said, that men's repression of emotion really was just a coping mechanism to survive. Like bears eating you and living in the wild.
If there's a bear coming at me right now and I need to throw a spear, and the cortisol is flowing through my body from all that fear, and now my hand is shaking, how am I going to throw the spear properly?
You have to suppress
I have to. So, and if I don't do that, if I don't suppress that emotion, my family's not going to eat tonight. So we should accept that this is an evo psych issue. There is a systemic in our species suppression of it. Is inherent to what being a man is, which is what Bell Hooks kind of cracked, where it's like, to be a man is violence. To be a man is a systemic repression of emotion. It's in the definition.
I'm gonna have to disagree with that. So the reason I'm disagreeing with, I think what you're describing as masculinity, or a defining feature of masculinity, is actually the definition of trauma. And I say that because you say that men developed repression as a coping mechanism to living in the wild, to living with like conditions of extreme fear. Fast forward 2023, we no longer live in the wild. We no longer live in these conditions of extreme material fear. Meat is in the supermarket. So to have a coping mechanism that you should have shed centuries ago is a trauma response. So it's I understand that it feels like it is who you are, or that's how it feels in the body of a man. But I think to be a human is to be a constantly evolving being. The brain just is a computer that develops in relation to its environment. And so that means the brain is a computer that adapts who it is and what it does in relation to its environment. But when a certain part of the brain fails to adapt to a new environment, it is inherently stuck in the past.
No, absolutely.
Which is what being in a traumatic state is.
Yeah.
So I think it's more productive to describe patriarchy as that, a
Yeah.
trauma response. It's not even an
Sure.
identity.
Sure, it
it's
is.
not a
It's a
state.
defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's just everything
Absolutely.
it means to be a man
Yeah.
is just a defense. And I think we should address that.
And on every level, like it's
Yeah.
something that Bell Hooks spells out like really, really well. Where like even look at in Boyhood what is inherently becoming a man. It's like flat boxing with your dad in the yard. That's being a man.
Yeah.
Sucking it up when you like hit your knee. That's being a man. Everything about being a man has to do with pain and violence.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
things that are intrinsic to the definition
Yeah.
of what it is.
Yeah.
Violence and repression are intrinsic to being a man. It's also intrinsic to what being an attractive man to women are, where it's that men are only attractive to women when we are intimidating to other men.
Interesting.
You get like
Yeah.
violence and a defense mechanism is programmed into the definition of being a man for both men and women.
Interesting.
Women like men
Yeah.
that are tall, that's intimidating. They like men with money, that's intimidating. They like, that's also what we value in ourselves. We
Yeah.
like the biggest, strongest athletes. We like so every single person defining masculinity is defining it through this lens of literal violence and a trauma response.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So the only way that this gets better is if we just stop that entirely and just treat everyone like a human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds really corny, but like
Yeah.
we actually just have to stop this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's
No,
all about
literally.
pain and violence.
Yeah.
And
That's the whole
meat
thing.
is in the supermarket.
Yeah.
By the way, like you're completely, and that's why I don't like cut men. I'm not. This isn't a defense because it's like, guys, meat has been in the supermarket for like 200
Right,
years. Like,
right.
why do we still need to be this way?
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
excuse anymore. Are you throwing a spear?
Yeah.
Are you still throwing
Why
a
do you-
spear?
yeah.
Why are you repressing this much?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel that it's time to move on and do something else. Women also have to help with that though. Because if that can't be the definition of masculinity anymore, the things that you guys find attractive in us can't also just be violence. It can't just be being intimidating to other men. It
So you're
requires
saying women need to take accountability for patriarchy. To what extent?
the extent to which you perpetuate it, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's the same way like women perpetuate
That's-
misogyny amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only that. That's all you have. But like it happens from everyone. Every
It's a-
mother
yeah.
that tells their little boy to man up, or like every woman that is just attractive to a guy because he's intimidating to other men.
Yeah.
Like that's
We
the
are
si-
prepared. It's a challenging thought to hear, but it's really valid.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's take it or leave it. You know.
No,
I'm
it's
just-
a valid.
Just telling it like it is.
You Kate Jordan Peterson? We have Jordan Peterson over here.
No, this is not-
No,
this is-
I know. I do feel I'm just making fun of you, but I do. No, it's a challenge. Like as a black woman, it's a challenging.
Is he
take, but I
cute or
can't-
could he just beat someone up for
Yeah,
you?
yeah. I
Answer
cannot
the
deny.
question.
I cannot deny validity at this point. I can neither confirm nor deny any allegations. But there you have it, guys. Those are. That's about as much time as we have for now.
Yeah.
So we'll continue with the questions in the next episode. If you have any more, please, or even just subjects, topic suggestions for future episodes, let us know. And do you like being all close and personal? Is this a close and personal shot?
They're a bit far, but
Yeah.
we just look very jobless.
Yeah?
And I'm curious.
Do you like unemployed
Yeah,
Bobo and
yeah.
Donovan?
Yeah.
Do you like us jobless laying on the grass?
Yeah. Let us
You know? Yeah. And we'll do more jobless videos for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on any three of the questions. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye. That was great.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.